Bias right here for our friends on FanDuel TV. Of course, you can find us on the Ringer Gambling Show. A lot to get to as far as NFL games to break down, the MVP race that's heating up as we move forward throughout the month of November. The month of decision has come and gone, and a lot to dive into. We welcome in Joe House, Raheem Palmer, JJ Jastremski, and Mr. House. We had a Monday night game where Arlene with Tampa Bay ended up being a winner. It's a game Tampa Bay easily could have and should have won. Shame on Todd Bowles, who I like. I think he's a great human being. I think he's a great dude. I think he's a little bit of a coward, though, at the end of these games. I'm sorry. The idea of sending out your field goal kicker to kick an extra point when you're playing Patrick Mahomes with inside of 30 seconds at Arrowhead is not an advisable scenario and situation. But the Chiefs, they win the ball. They win the coin toss. They get the ball. They score. What else is new? But we spent some time discussing and dissecting the MVP market on Monday's pod. And Anthony DeBundo joined us, and you guys were all over this. The idea of, hey, if you like Mahomes, get it now at 750. He has a big Monday night game. It's a standalone audience. It's going to move the needle. That rapport and that chemistry with DeAndre Hopkins' house, I think it's fair to say those MVP odds move the needle a little bit, my friend, once you hit Wednesday or now Thursday.
Yeah, and it is exactly what we kind of imagined was possible as we forecasted that Monday night game. We're thinking through best angles for it. That idea that the whole country would see Mahomes building up his rapport with Nuke. And man, what an absolute – it's just a reminder of – the greatness of Mahomes, yes, but also like just, receivers in that position, how so ready to perform. It was a wonderful thing to see as a person with a Chiefs teaser ticket. And I personally would like to tip my hat to Coach Bowles for not because if he had gone for it and failed, the teasers were cooked. The only possible
they
way.
They were cooked. But no, from a strategy standpoint, House,
you are
nobody
right.
is killing Todd Bowles if they go for two and they don't get it on Monday night. Fair?
Nobody.
Nobody's killing him for that.
It's the right decision. There's no question about it. I mean, you need to go for the win under those circumstances. Not enough.
Yeah, you absolutely have to go for that win. It just was, it was angering for me just because you saw like the way Baker Mayfield brought them down the field, and he's just such a gamer. You're missing your top two star wide receivers, and you bring them into the game like this, and for them not to go for it, it was just very disappointing knowing that there was just no chance that they were going to stop Patrick Mahomes in overtime. So I was angry about that one, just as a fan of football.
Yeah, me too. Now, Raheem, we know that there's a looming showdown that I think might go a long way in determining the MVP. And we're not talking about it this week because it's not a game that we have on the bingo card for week number 10, but it is a game next week that might be the game of the year in the NFL, which is Kansas City, the champs, going into Buffalo to take on Josh Allen and the Bills. MVP odds at the moment have Jackson and Allen 1-2. Mahomes is kind of slotted in that 3 spot. I'll say this about Josh Allen. I think the voters want to give this guy the award. I could be wrong on this. I could be misreading it. I think because of the fact Jackson has won a couple, Mahomes is Mahomes, Allen is this great quarterback of this generation that's a part of, the grouping that hasn't won an MVP. He's had a couple of close calls. And I'd argue this. If they go and beat Kansas City and he plays well in the game next Sunday, I think he is going to run away with this thing. I just do. I just think there is a sort of narrative out there that's kind of pushing the Allen MVP candidacy. And I think that's something we got to be aware of here as the weeks move on. But it also means Buffalo's got to go and beat Kansas City. So that's something to take into account.
Yeah, I agree with you on the surface. I definitely think if they beat Kansas City, he's probably going to be the odds-on favorite. But we do have to remember that right now, if you look at the numbers, Lamar Jackson is just playing out of his mind.
He's balling. He's balling.
Yeah.
I get that. He's balling.
Like he's third in passing yards. You look at yards per attempt, 9.3. He has 20 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Josh Allen is 10th in yardage. He has 17 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And then if you go break down the EPA and the advanced stats, Lamar Jackson is first in EPA per play. Josh Allen is 8th. So, and then also Lamar Jackson is 1st in success rate. So, the biggest thing for me is that I think the Ravens are going to slip. They're in a tough division. I think they would have to play perfect football, and they've had some weird losses this year. So, I generally agree with you. But if the Ravens keep going the way they're going, they might have to give it to Lamar again.
Yeah, Dream. The Ravens might slip tonight. I mean, this is a scary game.
Tease. We will get to that, but yes.
But to me, the Allen part of this is, him carrying the team to that. You expect them to win this coming week. They will be 8-2. You expect that the Chiefs will handle their business against Denver. They will be, what would that put them to? 8-0. So if the Bills derail the Chiefs' undefeated season, and we have Josh Allen in the post-Stephon Diggs era, the post-Gabe Davis era, I think there's a stat out there that he has thrown a touchdown to 12 different offensive players this year at Buffalo, and that's number one rank across everybody. So that there's a lot of narrative that goes alongside the merits, but Buffalo is pretty effing good. They've really been handling their business so far this year, JJ.
All right, guys. So we had an NFL trade deadline that has come and gone, and I know Mr. House is thrilled about the fact that his C-words go and get themselves a top-notch corner in Lattimore from the New Orleans Saints. Raheem, I'll start with you on this one because we know our buddy is going to have a hard time containing the smile and the giddiness about his team making moves and being a buyer and everything that comes with it. Don't worry, House. We'll get to you. But, Raheem, is that the move that over the last week moved the needle more than any other? I mean, we saw Kansas City add a couple of guys before the deadline in Uche and, of course, in DeAndre Hopkins. Buffalo was able to go and add Amari Cooper a couple of weeks ago. But as far as the moves that were made leading into Tuesday, was Lattimore to Washington the one that stood out the most to you?
No. It was the Lions trading a 5th and 6th round pick to Cleveland for Zadarius Smith. We know that without Aiden Hutchinson, this team did not have a pass rush. Well, when you add Zadarius Smith to a team that's been as dominant as the Lions, and you saw what they did to the Green Bay Packers last week, I think that's the one that moves the needle by far.
That's fascinating, House, because we have talked about Detroit needing a pass rusher in the absolute worst way. You wondered where it was going to come from. Smith coming over from Cleveland, where he had great success getting after the quarterback, makes perfect sense. That said, though, House, it's okay to be giddy, dude. This is a big-time move by your C-words to go and get Marshawn Lattimore to help shore up that defense.
Yeah, I mean, it was exactly what was required. I think that, sort of objectively, Washington probably overpaid, but they were in competition with other teams. Lattimore's a little dinged up, has a hamstring injury that had him out week 7 and came back and played, but he is exactly what the team needed on paper in terms of all-pro caliber, the pedigree, his fit into the Dan Quinn system, like, the local review and take on it is just over the top, thrilled to have him in-house. But Dre's point is the right one. Zadarius Smith on Detroit is ferocious. I mean, that is that is like a force multiplier in terms of what they're already, sort of loaded up across the board. And they managed to really put a lot of pressure on Jordan Love against a Green Bay Packers offensive line that on a pass protect basis had rated very well over the course of this season. Man, you just got to look out for Detroit. That is a juggernaut this year, fellas.
Raheem, I have odds to win the NFC East at the moment. And I'm invested. Took Philadelphia at the beginning of the year. House, we could have gotten Washington at one hell of a preseason number. I heard Simmons giving you some crap for that the other day. You talked about betting the C-words. I don't blame you. I wouldn't have bet the C-words at the beginning of the year to win the division either. How could you?
I told him the issue is the defense. I had no issue. Like, if you wanted to talk yourself into the preseason version, the summer version of Jaden Daniels coming out and taking the world by fire, which has happened. I'm knocking on wood loudly. The issue always was going to be the defense. They didn't have the personnel. And it did seem like there was going to be some adjustment period with the personnel they had. They did bring in a bunch of new players, but like brand new defensive coordinator across the board. All of the assistant defensive coaches were new. Now, it was helpful to get Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu in the middle, but this Washington team traded its best edge rusher, Montez Sweat, last season to the Bears. So it was reasonable in the preseason to be skeptical of that defense. And in the first 3 games of the season, that defense was, deserved the skepticism. So credit to Dan Quinn, credit to all the assistants on that side of the ball, credit to the organization for picking guys that can come out and immediately make a difference. But I stand by my position that, that was going to be the thing that was going to sink Washington, and it may yet be the thing. We still have all our divisional games coming up other than the sorry-ass Giants. It could still be the thing that keeps Washington from taking the division.
Well, you nailed it. You have 2 games left with Philadelphia that are going to go a long way, Raheem, in determining this thing. We got the Eagles at the beginning of the year in that like minus 120-ish range. Now it's at minus 145. Where do we stand on this, Raheem? Should I feel good about my position of having Philadelphia exposure to win this division? Or should I be a little concerned? Like, they won last week. We know they have a ton of talent on their roster, the Eagles. The Sirianni factor scares the crap out of me. Is that unreasonable?
It's so funny because we just got finished talking a lot of junk about Todd Bowles. Well, Sirianni is the antithesis of Todd Bowles. So I've kind of gotten to the point to where if I'm going to criticize Todd Bowles, I kind of got to live with Sirianni. And at least we know he has the balls to go for it. And
he does. He does. Maybe misguided at times, but he does. The 2-point plays, too, are also a doozy. Don't forget about those, Raheem.
Yeah, but I think this can go either way. I mean, you're looking at a Philadelphia Eagles team. You're 6-2, Pythagorean expectation, 5.2 wins. You look at the Washington Commanders, 7-2, Pythagorean expectation, 6-2, expected win percentage. So I think this is going to be a close race down to the end. And you look at both of these teams, they play each other twice. And they both play the Dallas Cowboys, who stink at this point in time. They play them in the next couple of weeks. So, the advantage for the Eagles is they get the Cowboys this week, and Dak is probably not playing, while Dak may actually play against the Commanders. So I think that's a little bit of an advantage for the Eagles. But I really like this Eagles offense. I think at full strength, they've proven to us that outside of the game against the Atlanta Falcons, they haven't really lost a true game this year. So I would probably keep my position on the Eagles, but the Commanders are very close.
Can I commend you, Raheem, by the way, for encouraging me to get in on Philadelphia action on Monday's pod, considering of the Dak Prescott news that was to come? Can you take a little bit of a bow on that, reading the room? Well done, Dream. We're proud of you for that.
I mean, I don't want to take a bow because obviously the game has to win. Unlike the financial markets, I mean, you can get a good price in the sports betting markets and you can still lose. So hopefully the Eagles still pull that off. But we did our job as sports bettors to get the best of the number, and that's all that matters.
That's right. We'll take the idea of getting the best of the number, and as they say, que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. We got a lot more coming your way. Loaded edition of East Coast Bias when we return. It is a very juicy Thursday night football game. House kind of teased the fact that there is a certain live potential underdog that's playing on Thursday. Joe Burrow, the resurgent Cincinnati Bengals, going in to take on the Ravens. Remember, this is where Joe Burrow got hurt last year. Thursday night game. Revenge spot? We'll dive in. Coming up next. All right, welcome back. Thursday Night Football, really good game. One of the better matchups that we have this week. You can make the argument maybe it is the best game that we have this week. With Cincinnati and Baltimore, they played a very entertaining game earlier in the regular season. Cincinnati jumped out to a huge lead. Lamar Jackson had an unbelievable comeback, and Baltimore ended up winning the game outright. Baltimore is in way better position in the AFC North. Cincinnati, though, starting to make their move. They've won a couple games in a row. We know how terrific their offense may be. And they're basically even money, a little worse than that, quite frankly, to go and find themselves in the postseason as a wild card. So, House, 6.5 is the number for Cincinnati. You got to lay minus 120. So you're paying a little bit of a premium if you want to go and grab the points with the Bengals. Very, very tough game. Saw Baltimore smoke them last year. Saw Baltimore maybe play a game that they should have lost early in the year. Let's start with you on this one. Where do we stand on Cincy Baltimore on Thursday night?
Well, in the first place, I hate to be a party pooper, but I want to complain a tiny bit. I hate these division games on Thursday night. I really dislike them. And we're going to have 2 consecutive weeks of it because it's Cincinnati and Baltimore this week and then Washington and Philly next Thursday night. And four days is not enough for the guys to get back to full health. I'll get that off my soapbox, but I just want to register my complaint because these matchups are – at this point in the season, going to determine the outcome of these divisions, the outcome of who's in the playoffs and who's not. Now, having said all that, I like the Bengals. I like the Bengals getting all those points. There's a bunch of great angles out there. Harbaugh as a favorite in divisional games. You're supposed to fade him. Lamar as a home favorite of between 3 and 10 points. Is 7-18-1. Joe Burrow as an underdog of 3 or more points, 16-3 against the spread. But it also kind of lines up with, what we expect to see out of these two teams, which is exactly what we got the first time they played. It came down to a handful of plays. Some people, some questionable decision making at the coaching level for Cincinnati. A lot of folks felt like Cincinnati delivered that game over to Baltimore on a platter at the end. I just think this is going to be back and forth. The way I'm playing it is not side, and the total now is crazy, even though all of Baltimore games go flying over the total. I mean, Baltimore totals, you might as well put them up in the mid-60s if you're really trying to grab where they're at. But I'm not advocating that. I'm just going to very simply play Joe Burrow over 1.5 touchdowns, which right now is available on the FanDuel Sportsbook at minus 146, because all he's done all season long is throw multiple touchdowns, and by now it's not it's a feature, not a bug, that Baltimore gives up passing yardage and gives up passing touchdowns. So Burrow's prop is my favorite angle to this game so far, fellas.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to approach this. I think, obviously the Ravens are a pass funnel defense. Like I've the last couple of weeks, I've been playing Ravens overs. They're 8-1 to the over this year, but I think we've gotten to a point where that total's a little too high. You're looking at 53.5 right now on FanDuel Sportsbook. I think at some point in time, the market is telling you, and these odds makers are telling you, all right, this market is efficient. We're not going to allow you to make money on the over every single week, and we're going to make you pay a premium for it. But at the same time, I refuse to bet an under in a Ravens game with the way this team is scoring. You're talking about a team that's scoring upwards of 30 points a game, and we know the Bengals can't really score. So this is an interesting matchup when it comes to the side. All the models are saying take the Ravens, but this is a divisional game. And if you go back to the last game, the Bengals should have won that game. And obviously, they missed a field goal. They blow a 10-point lead in the second half, or in the fourth quarter, rather, and missed the field goal in overtime. I think this is a 3-point game either way. So I think even if you go back a year ago, that November 16th game last year, the Bengals, right before Joe Burrow got hurt, the Bengals were up 10-7. Joe Burrow was carving that Ravens defense up. And then, he broke his hand by hitting his hand on the helmet on the Joe Mixon touchdown. And then the Ravens took over at 134-20. I think this is going to be a very close game. I actually think you could sprinkle a little something on the Bengals money line, because this is a desperation spot. And if the Bengals win this game, they're only one game behind the Ravens for the lead in the division. And they'll be, neck and neck with the Pittsburgh Steelers as well. So I would go there. I also think you can look at, Joe Burrow over 268 and a half passing yards. I think, this is a pass funnel defense, so that's the direction I would be looking here.
Boys, let's make it 3 for 3. I love Cincinnati in this game. Raheem, you hit on the angle of desperation that, to me, kind of pushes me in the camp of Burrow and company. They played Baltimore neck and neck early in the year. They moved the ball incredibly well on the Raven defense earlier in the year. I don't worry about them being phased by playing on the road, playing a short week on Thursday night. They're going to be able to go and have offensive success. I think this game is going to be a shootout. I see what you guys are saying point-wise. No way in the world am I going anywhere near a total on a short week Thursday night game that's, 52 or 53 and a half? They're making you pay that premium on the total. I don't think I'm paying a premium here, grabbing 6.5 with a team that needs the game a lot more, that has a really good offense, and has had success playing well against the Ravens. I add all of that up, and I don't think they're going to have Higgins in this game. That's fine from this standpoint. They're a better team with Higgins. We all understand that. They've played a bunch now without him. This is not a situation here where Cincinnati has not played a game without T. Higgins, and you don't know how they're going to respond. They've played a bunch of games without T. Higgins now. This is now becoming kind of par for the course for them. And from a prop standpoint, guys, I'm going right back to the Gesicki wall from last week. He had a monster game. He is kind of emerging without Higgins being in the mix as that guy that Burrow is looking to on third down and when Jamar Chase is getting doubled. Because, listen, Baltimore going in is going to know, hey, let's try and do everything in our power to take away Chase. Are they going to be able to do that? Easier said than done. But that means there's opportunities for other guys to go and feast. I'm looking at Gesicki to score a touchdown. I would play Gesicki for his over with receptions. And I think if you could get him over 30 to 40-plus yards, he will get there for Cincinnati. But, guys, this is a field goal game. And I'm with you, Raheem. I will take them on the money line as well. I think it's worth the investment. I think you're getting a good price on it, basically 2+ bills. Cincinnati, guys, family play here to go and cover this game. Raheem, my question is, if you like Cincinnati to win this game, do you get on board with them to go and win the division?
That's an interesting question.
Because to me, if they win this game, you kind of hit at it. They have a split with Baltimore, heads up. They'll have 2 games with the Steelers that they can go and, dare I say, get. Right there, no?
So the tough thing for me is that this Cincinnati Bengals team has shown me that they can lose to any team. So at 10-1, you're kind of playing the lottery. And you have 4 out of their next 5 games on the road. So you play the Ravens, then you play the Chargers, then you got a divisional game against the Steelers, then you have to go on the road and play the Cowboys. And I think at that point in time, Dak Prescott will be back, and then you got to play the Titans. Now, you could say that the Cowboys and the Titans games are easy, but like I said before, they've proven that they can lose to anybody. So, I mean, they played a tough game against the Giants, whereas they definitely shouldn't have covered that game. So I can't necessarily trust this team. I think the way to play them is, to play them and get into the playoffs, to play their win total over. But I think the division is a bridge too far, personally.
I kind of like it. I kind of like the 10-1, to be honest with you.
It's a good number, man. It's a really good number.
Well, when you're looking backwards at all of our forecasts for how this was going to go, JJ, I think it was maybe one of your best bets was the Bengals to win this division, and it's because of the schedule over the latter half, and you could just compare their schedule up against what Pittsburgh has in front of them and what the Ravens still have left. And there's no question if the Bengals win this game, they're going to be favored in every game through the rest of the season. Now, the point that Dream made is the right point. Who they can lose to anybody. But we also know that now to be true of the Ravens. and we'll see how the Steelers come out against Washington this week 10. So at 10-1, it kind of has my attention, I have to confess. I will say I do have one other angle on this play. I'm going to go ahead and do it because of our enthusiasm for the Bengals. And Dreams made the right point. You gotta if you're gonna play the Bengals against the spread, you gotta get on their money line as well. But I'm gonna put them in a teaser leg. I know it's not as efficient, but I just love the idea
Get into
of
what, 13?
12 and a half.
12 and a half? Okay.
Yeah. But let me have them with some margin, and then I can easily. There's some other teaser legs that are more sound, efficient, positive expected value teaser legs out there. But let me just get one across the goal line on Thursday with the Bengals, and then I'll put it together with some of the more conventional ones.
You know, the way these wine teasers are going this year, I think you almost have to find alternative ways to play in teasers, and I think you kind of got to go left. Like we see the Podfather, he lost his first 10-point teaser in like 4 years the other day. Like, so it's just like, I'm at this point in time, I'm all for breaking the rules. So, House, I'm riding with you on that one.
Hey, all right now.
Guys, I know it's a big if. They're 6.5 point dog in the game. Here's the Bengal remaining schedule. At the Chargers, winnable. Not a given, winnable. It's winnable. They'll be, I don't think they'll be favored in that game, House. If they are, it'll be like pick 'em. That'll be a very small spread. Home Steelers, at Dallas. That game don't look as tough.
Oh, against the Chargers?
No.
You said they're not...
No. I'm talking about the Cowboys.
Oh, okay. I'm about to say, all right, cool.
They will be slight underdogs maybe in that Charger game. Slight, Raheem. Okay. Slight. I think that's Chargers by like 1.5, 2, something along those lines.
Yeah.
They host the Steelers. They always play Pittsburgh well at home. At Dallas, that game's not as tricky. At the Titans, Browns, home. Broncos, home. At the Steelers. Bengals are making the playoffs. They are 100% making the playoffs with that schedule. As long as Burrow can stay healthy. I preface my affirmative take with that little disclaimer. Burrow's got to stay healthy and finish out the year. If he does, Cincinnati's playing wild card weekend. And guys, remember I said this. None of these teams, these big teams, none of them want to see Cincinnati in the first round. You do not. You'll take the Chargers. You'll take the Steelers. You do not want to see Cincinnati in the first round.
Imagine
coming
Joe
into your
Burrow.
building? No.
Yeah. Imagine Joe Burrow going to Kansas City.
Or Buffalo or Baltimore, whatever it may be. So remember we said that. A little warning from your friends here at East Coast Bias. All right, we got a lot of games to get to. There's a team in my backyard that has caught my eye for a potential best bet. Maybe, maybe not, but we'll dive into all the games of note. And I actually have a playoff bet that is correlated with one of the games we have coming up this week. What do I mean by that? I might wait a week. I might get it now. I'll get the boys' advice on this when we come back. All right, welcome back. We got all the Week 10 games to get to. Now, I want to get you guys' advice on this thought I had. San Francisco getting McCaffrey back. They're a 5.5 point favorite at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We hit on it earlier, Raheem. Tampa Bay and the golden opportunity squandered Monday night against the Chiefs. I don't necessarily have a play on this game. We'll dive into that. I'll let you guys weigh in on that if you do. But I was thinking about this with Tampa. After they play San Francisco, they have a very favorable down-the-stretch schedule. And I mean very favorable. They're plus 200 right now to make the playoffs. But listen to these games. After the Niners, at Giants, at Panthers, Raiders at home, at Chargers, at Cowboys, Panthers, Saints. I think Tampa has an excellent chance to find themselves to 10-7. I trust Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield is a gamer. They'll get Evans back. And the schedule is favorable. Should I hop on Tampa now at plus 200 to make the playoffs? Or do I wait, bank on San Francisco beating them this week, and then get it at a much better number? Where do we stand?
I don't like this one at all.
You're out. Okay, that's fine. Why you out?
Well, okay, so let's just look at the division winners. So you have right now, you have the Commanders / Eagles. Yeah. So I mean, the Commanders or the Eagles are both going to get in.
Okay, that's two. I'll give you that.
You have the Lions. I think someone else from their division is also going to get in. So that's 4 right there. Then you have the Falcons, and then you have the Cardinals. So you basically, I mean, you're fighting for, one spot right now. And I just think the Rams or the 49ers, I think you're going to have multiple teams out of NFC West and multiple teams out of the NFC North. I don't think the Buccaneers, obviously you lose Godwin. I don't know what the status is on Evans is right now, but this defense isn't very good despite them having a defensive-minded head coach. So I just think it's tough for me to get there at this point in time. And if they lose to the 49ers, they're pretty much all but out of it.
4-6. Not necessarily with the schedule they have coming up, but it would definitely shrink the margin of error. House, my thing is
the biggest thing is though, it's not because of the record. It's because they would have already lost to multiple, playoff teams. Obviously, you beat the Eagles, but they did beat the Commanders.
They beat Washington in week 1.
They beat Washington, beat Philly, and I think both of those teams are getting in, Raheem, for what it's worth. I think Philly and Washington are both going to make it, but I do wonder if there's going to be some cannibalization between the teams in the North and the teams in the West, and Tampa's just kind of saying, hey, we got the Saints twice. Hey, we got the Panthers. And then you look up at the end of the year and you're like, holy smokes, how did Tampa find their way to the playoffs? That's all I'm saying, House.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy. I don't love the price right now. It's only like plus 205 or something. It's just 2-1 odds. If what I expect to occur this coming Sunday does indeed come to pass, and that is that San Francisco comes in and blasts them, and it is one of my favorite plays of the week. It's just a very tough spot for Tampa. It's no disrespect to Tampa. It's just, coming off that Monday night in a very tough game against the Chiefs, home against a rested San Francisco team with Christian McCaffrey. Whew, I think it's going to be a tough roll. So we'll see what that number goes to. But I think you have a good case, because what you're really talking about, JJ, is Tampa versus Minnesota versus the LA Rams. I think that's really, there's one spot for one of those three teams, to my way of looking at that NFC picture. And if the price is up in that, if you get all the way up to 3-1 territory, then I think I might be interested in it.
So I forgot I did this assignment yesterday. So myself and Anthony DeBundo, we did a win totals draft, and I'm looking at my notes right now. I actually have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers projected at 9.5 wins right now. The market has their adjusted win total at 8.5. I have it at 9.5, and like JJ said, they have a pretty favorable schedule. I mean, you're playing the Panthers, you're playing the Raiders, you're playing the Panthers twice.
Yeah.
So
Two wins.
I think you have the Giants as well. So they do have a favorable schedule. So my model has it at 9.5 wins. And if they could somehow, upset somebody to get the 10, this is live. So I see where you're coming from.
Okay. House really likes the Niners. Do you like San Francisco in a big bounce back spot this week, Raheem?
Yeah, I think I'm with House on this one. I think, I don't know, I'm necessarily going to play it against the spread, but I think this is a game where the Niners should win.
Yeah, with the extra time, no doubt about it. Tampa Bay coming off a short week. Really, really tough spot for the Bucs. Okay. Let's get to this game, House, near and dear to your heart. Pittsburgh, a 2.5-point underdog going into Washington. We talk about this all the time with Tomlin. Tomlin's teams are usually way better in these sort of spots than they are when they are laying points. I had this one circled. Now, I have to be fair. I've faded the commies a decent amount this year and have not had great success. The Bear game, the Giant game last week, Arizona early in the year. My record in Washington Commanders games is not great in 2024. That said, House, I think it's a great spot for the Steelers. I'm all over them. I like them plus 2.5 here.
Yeah, JJ, I share your pain or, lack of Washington acumen, because I keep fading this Washington team and I just keep waking up happy on Mondays. Another bet that I've lost, but it's absolutely a victory Monday. So I'm thrilled to have it. And I was against them against the Browns. I was against them against the Bears. And the thing that I keep anticipating is, when is Washington going to go up against a defense that has the only defense that really showed the ability to contain Jaden was, interestingly enough, Baltimore. And Baltimore had the athletes to physically bracket him so he could not get out and run. It was his worst rushing performance of the season. Does Pittsburgh have that? I'm not so sure. The thing that I still have stuck in my head is that game that Dallas had going into Pittsburgh, a one-dimensional Dallas Cowboy team who still managed to rush for 100 yards, but also Dak Prescott just stood back there and had a field day. So the metrics have Pittsburgh with an elite pass defense. This will be an interesting scheme situation. This one is a full-on stay the F away in terms of betting on it because of the history that Tomlin has as a dog. They will be ready. But I will say in Washington's favor, they have turned the corner in terms of their pass rush. They are top 5 in terms of pass rush win rate. And we know that Russell Wilson does not like to be under pressure. The numbers are dramatic. The splits between his success when he is comfortable in the pocket and when there's any kind of pass rush at all. Washington's pass rush is legit. So it's a stay away for me, but I'm excited to see it because it's another referendum for Washington.
I think House hit the nail on the head. Like, that Cowboys game was very concerning. Dak Prescott moved the ball up and down the field. And like he said, they're one-dimensional. And if you look at the Steelers' schedule, yes, they're 8th in defensive DVOA, but they've played the 28th ranked schedule of opposing offenses. Look at the offenses they faced. They faced the Atlanta Falcons when Kirk Cousins was coming back from an Achilles injury. They faced Bo Nix in his second game of the year. They faced the Chargers when Justin Herbert was banged up. They played the Colts with, Anthony Richardson for, half of the game. And then they played the Cowboys. They played the Raiders. They played the Jets, who were struggling to figure things out offensively. And then they played the Giants. So this Commanders offense is by far the best offenses that they played. And you look at the Commanders, they're scoring on 60% of their drives. And I think touchdowns on 35% of their drives. The only time that they had issues is when they struggle in the red zone in games against the Giants and games against the Bears. Well, I don't know if that's going to be an issue here. Now, the thing that's scary for me about this game is that we all know Mike Tomlin's record as an underdog. And if I look at my model actually has this game a pick 'em. So do I trust my model or do I trust the handicap that the Washington Commanders offense is by far better than what we saw with the Steelers? I think I'm with House on this, at least right now, that I'm probably going to stay away from this game.
All right, so I can't get you guys on board with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, Raheem, you got to do me a favor, buddy. You have to make sure that I don't bet the Houston Texans on Sunday night because this is shaping up to be like the most public, obvious, square Sunday night play of the year with Detroit laying a small number against the Houston team. The last time we saw them, they stunk up the joint on Thursday Night Football against the New York Jets. And we know what Detroit has done over the last 2.5 years when it comes to covering numbers. They've been off the rails covering numbers in these games. But when I smell a rat, I smell a rat. Raheem, I think the Lions this week is one of the biggest rats we have on the Week 10 board. Do you agree?
I know the Sharps are going to be on the Texans, but I can't do it. Like,
I get it. I get it. Listen, I totally understand. I feel the same way. I don't want to bet Houston in this spot. I don't.
What's the case for Houston?
Extra time. And get Nico Collins back. That's my case. I'm not saying it's a good one. I'm just saying you wanted me to make a case for Houston. I made the case for Houston. And that Detroit is going to maybe due to play a tight game here.
The other side of it, too, as well, is the difference of Houston at home versus on the road. I mean, C.J. Stroud averages over 300 yards of passing, and for whatever reason, his pass protect, it could be a function. I'm not going to sit down and do the schedule analysis of the home games that Houston has had since they acquired C.J. Stroud in the draft, but their pass protect is superior for whatever reason thus far over C.J. Stroud's career at home, and all he does is get cooking. My concern, JJ, is what you see as a rat. It looks like a giant lion to me, buddy. That doesn't look like a rat to me. That looks like a giant lion that's coming in there, and his name is Zadarius Smith, and he's ready to come in there and wreak some havoc on C.J. Stroud. So that pass protect that I'm referring to, it better be there because the Lions are coming.
Before we move on, I think it's important to recognize that this Texans offense it still leaves a lot to be desired. You look at them from a success rate standpoint. They're 29th in offensive success rate. That's worse than the Carolina Panthers, the Tennessee Titans, the New England Patriots, the Raiders, the Bears, the Broncos, the Cowboys, the Saints, the Giants, the Dolphins without Tua. That's how bad they've been from an offensive success rate standpoint. So if you look at the look-ahead line on this game, before the season, it was Texans -1. We're at 3.5. At one point, it was 4.5. The Lions, 40-15, at 72% against the spread over the last 55 games. I think if you want to play the Texans, the way to play this is the under. Because the strength of this Texans team, to me, is their defense. They have a solid defense. So if they're going to do anything, it's going to come from their defense. You're talking about the defense, which is 7th in EPA per play. The Lions defense is 5th in EPA per play. So I think you have two solid defenses. If you look at how the Lions have been playing, they like to run the ball. And Jared Goff has only been thrown, 20 times a game or so? So if the Texans keep this close, this game is going under. So that's probably where I would lean on this game.
All right, we'll come back with best bets a little bit later on. Before we do that, it's 2 weeks into the NBA season, so when we return, maybe an early season takeaway you have. Is there a team that we should be looking to buy low on in the futures market? Anything regarding the MVP? We'll kind of do a little NBA open forum when we come back on East Coast Bias. All right, we're 2 weeks into the NBA season. That means thoughts are starting to percolate. That means maybe there's some place we can look to buy low. Raheem, I can tell you this, buddy boy. I feel really good about my Cleveland Cavalier over that we bet at the beginning of the year. And I'm not trying to put the kibosh on it or mush it, but they're off to an outstanding start. I think they're going to win a gazillion regular season games, and then we can fade accordingly in the postseason. But you, my friend, are rip-roaring with a couple of thoughts on maybe a wager or two we should be looking to make from what we've seen 2 weeks in. What would that be?
So I have a couple. I think the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're an absolute juggernaut right now. Obviously, they're undefeated as of the time that we record this podcast. Maybe it'll be different in the morning. I doubt that. But they're nearly 3-1 to win the Western Conference. And I think you're getting a bargain on a team who has almost like 70 win potential. So I'll be looking towards that direction. I also think maybe you need to be sprinkling something on SGA to win the MVP because, I mean, they're that good. But the real take here is that the Denver Nuggets are absolutely struggling right now. And then they lose Aaron Gordon. And you look at the fact that Jamal Murray has been banged up. They've regressed. You look at the Denver Nuggets right now. They're just 18th in defensive rating. They can't really stop anybody. They're not a great three-point shooting team. So I think you can get them at plus 180 to make the play-in tournament. I think they're going to slip. And I don't know if they're going to make the top 7 or 8. So I think they're going to be in the play-in.
Wow. How about that? That'd be something for Jokic and company to be in the play-in, considering where they were 2 years ago. House, I know it's early. Is there anything that you really have as a grand takeaway from 2 weeks of NBA basketball?
Well, we're looking for opportunities, because the regular season win totals are sitting right there and they're moving. Those markets are moving quite a bit as these teams come out. We have 7 games into the Golden State Warriors schedule, and they are 6-1. With an outcome depending on against this Boston team. I am extremely skeptical of the Golden State Warriors. Their win total was in the 43-44 range, and it's all the way up to 49.5 at the FanDuel.
Way too high.
Sportsbook.
Way too high.
It is even money to take the under there. And part of, I think, what the market is observing is their defensive rating. Our good homie Brian Barrett had this on his Xbox Twitter machine for all of us to consume. Yes, they have a 102.1 defensive rating, the Golden State Warriors, but look at who they played. They played the Wizards, who are 24th in offensive rating. The Blazers, who are 25th. The Jazz, who are 30th. The Clippers, who are 23rd. They got to play the Pelicans twice already, who are 22nd. The only top 10 offense that this team has played thus far is the Houston Rockets. And there is, because it's early season, a bunch of numbers that make Buddy Hield and Andrew Wiggins look like they're on the path to all-star team qualification. Grab that price right now. Golden State under 49.5 at even money, plus 100.
Under 49.5. Sometimes FanDuel every now and again gives you maybe a little bit of a gift, and I think that's a sign of things to come. All right, we'll come back. Best bets, week 10. I actually have two I really like. Spoiler alert. We'll come right back. All right, gang, it's time. Week 10 best bets. Raheem, I'm starting with you. What do we got, buddy?
Go with the Buffalo Bills, minus 3.5. I know it's like a sandwich spot. I think a lot of people are going to kind of overthink this, but I think Josh Allen's just playing at a level that it's very difficult to fade them. I think this Colts defense isn't very good. I'm taking the 3.5 with the Bills. I think this is a bargain.
Ooh, I agree with this one, Raheem. You know, the spot is not my favorite. Indianapolis' defense is not going to be able to slow down the Buffalo Bills. And I think you're getting them at a discount. I think we're going to see Indianapolis going in the wrong direction here. I'm giving that a full-fledged yes. I'm right there with you. House, week 10. What's the idea? What's the thought process, buddy?
I've got a teaser that I love. I just offered up the Bengals at plus 12.5. We'll pair that with the Chargers from 7.5 down to 1.5 against the Titans, home against the Titans. I love that one. And then I'm going to go back to a well that I visited unsuccessfully last week. In fact, this well got a head coach fired. I was on the Saints first half team total last week. That did not get home. I love the Eagles first half team total. It's 12.5 points right now at a reasonable price in Dallas. The Eagles were humiliated in Dallas last year. Now, you go back and look at the track meet. Dak put it on them. I think that they want to come out and make a statement in Dallas, try and take advantage of the Cooper Rush situation and just get out, score some points. They finally scored some points in the first quarter. I think it could be a trend.
Guys, the Jets last week were good to me. You know what I'm going to do? I'm getting right back on the wagon, baby. Jets, Jets. They get extra time to prepare. Arizona right now is feeling their oats. They've just won 3 games in a row. They won 2 in dramatic fashion. Dominant performance last week against the Bears. I think we are due for a Kyler clunker. And I think the Jets have found a little something here from an offensive standpoint, Raheem. Rodgers, Jets, they make it a little bit more interesting. I'm taking them laying the small number. The other one I really like, give me Denver plus the points. They always play Kansas City tough. That defense will be ready to go. Short week for the Chiefs. Not saying Denver wins, but I'm grabbing 8.5, and I'm not thinking twice about it. So Jets and Broncos, you want to tease them? You want to parlay them? Whatever. I told you I had 2. I'm giving you 2. That's going to do it for this Thursday East Coast Bias. For House, Raheem, JJ signing off. Guys, I need some good juju for the Wise Wager, which is ice cold. I got to do something different. We'll see you for Ringer Sunday pregame, 11 a.m. Eastern. Be good, everybody.